So I think I've recently stumbled upon the worst reality show ever made. And let me be clear, I don't mean the worst in terms of like entertainment value or production quality. I mean the worst morally. Like there have been plenty of gross reality shows made like Fear Factor, where like the contestants have to eat worms or whatever. But this reality show, the one that I found, is gross on a spiritual level. Like I genuinely believe that everyone involved in the production of this show has evil in their heart. And by watching the show, some of that evil is transferred to you. So I'm gonna show it to you guys. It's a reality show called The Moment of Truth. And here's the brief description on IMDb. Game show contestants are given a polygraph test and asked hard-hitting questions in front of a live audience in order to win a cash prize. Now, that doesn't sound that evil or even that out there, but I'll tell you right now, that little description is bending over backwards to not make this show sound as inappropriate as it actually is. Like, having seen the show, this little description is like if Squid Game was a real thing, and IMDb described it as game show contestants are given fun matching uniforms and then asked to compete in fun, colorful challenges in order to win a cash prize while getting to know each other and having the time of their lives. Like, there's a lot of sinister shit they're leaving out, is my point. The show stars Mark Wahlberg. Oh, sorry, actually, the show stars Mark L. Wahlberg. It's this guy. He hosts the show. And real quick, I love how the show came out in 2008, meaning that, like, the Mark Wahlberg that we all know was already well into his movie career. He was already established as an A-list actor, he had had a hit pop song and an Academy Award nomination, but the host of this show was still like, no, not gonna change my name. Trust me, when this show hits, I'm gonna be the only Mark Wahlberg that people care about. But this show, in fact, did not hit. I mean, it hit in the sense that it became a permanent stain on the history of entertainment, but it didn't hit in the sense that, like, people enjoyed being entertained by it. The show debuted in January of 2008. It ended just 8 months later in August of 2008. There were 38 total episodes, 15 unaired. 15! Do you have any idea how crazy that is? Like, think about all the terrible episodes of television you've seen in your life. Those episodes made it to air, which means they're inherently ranked above these 15 unaired episodes. I mean, they aired the final season of Game of Thrones, which neither here nor there, but I actually think the final season of Game of Thrones is overhated, but that's a topic for a different video. I don't have time to get into it now. They fully shot, edited, and completed 15 full episodes that they didn't even air because there was just so much public outrage and mass revulsion to the episodes of the show that they did air. One episode in particular is the one that I'm going to focus on today, managed to become so controversial that it got its very own controversy section on Wikipedia. It was the 5th episode of The Moment of Truth, and it was so batshit insane that this was the real disclaimer that the show aired with the episode.
This episode was so controversial, it sparked a long debate as to whether or not to air it at all. Quite honestly, if I had my vote, it would not air.
The host of the show is like, hey, I wanted this episode destroyed, but I just wasn't powerful enough to get it done. After all, I'm not Mark Wahlberg. I'm just Mark L. Wahlberg.
It is the most uncomfortable I've ever been on television, asking these questions and listening to the answers that were given. But in the end, it was decided that this episode should air.
I mean, how crazy is this? The host of the show is like, every second of this episode made me deeply uncomfortable, but we're gonna show it to you anyway, right after these commercials. You might also notice that the footage of this show isn't exactly high definition, and that's because this show has been scrubbed from the internet. No HD copies of this are officially released at all. It's not on any streaming platform. There's obviously no physical DVD release. This show only existed on some random person's YouTube channel, and I think they must have just like filmed it when it originally aired, hence the grainy footage. This is totally true. I saw this a couple years back, and my first thought was, this show is insane, but my second thought was, this video is totally gonna get taken down. And sure enough, when I circled back to that YouTube video to make this video, it had been taken down. Which is why it's a good thing that all those years ago, when I had that thought, I impulsively just downloaded the video to my computer. So I have it for us to watch. I kind of feel like I saved some like prized manuscript from the Library of Alexandria before it burned down. Again, I really believe that I am the only civilian on planet Earth who has possession of this controversial episode of The Moment of Truth. I say that, and then like 12 guys in suits break down the door and then put a bag over my head and throw me into a windowless van. I should probably check real quick. Hey, are there men in suits out there about to break down the door, put a bag over my head, and throw me into a windowless van? I say that, and then we just hear a voice from the other side of the door like, yeah, we're out here, but a couple of us have to tie our shoes before we break in, so you have a few minutes. But the point is, I have this full controversial, batshit batshit insane episode, and we're gonna go through it in this video. Real quick though, I do just want to give a slightly more detailed synopsis of how this show works, just so you know what you're watching when we go through the episode. Before the show, each contestant is asked more than 50 personal questions in a polygraph test. Then during the show, he or she is asked 21 of those same questions, this time in front of spouses, relatives, and friends, that increase in sensitivity with each question. Each question answered honestly, meaning the answer given during the show matches the answer given in the pre-show polygraph test, earns the contestant money. Answering all 21 questions honestly nets the contestant the $500,000 grand prize. So the whole idea is, are you willing to be as brutally honest publicly as you are behind closed doors? Like, say for a hypothetical example, you were hooked up to a polygraph test behind closed doors and asked, do you think Robert Schultz should keep making long-form video content, or should he really just stick to the short-form videos that everyone seems to like way more? And you answer, yeah, I definitely think Robert Schultz should just stick to the short-form content that people like way more. But then you go to actually film the show, and then I'm brought out, and you're asked the exact same question to see if you have the backbone to be as brutally honest to my face as you were with the polygraph. Now, this premise would be borderline psychological torture no matter what, but in episode 5 of the show, it all kind of came to a head. So I think I put it off as long as I possibly can. Let's go ahead and dive into what just might be the most evil episode of reality television ever made.
Housewife Lauren Cleary will say anything in her attempt to win $500,000.
Do you know things about your father that you keep secret from your mother?
$500,000 honestly feels low for what they're asking of contestants. Like, in order to get me to take a polygraph test and then publicly confess to my deepest, darkest secrets, you need to pay me at least $501,000.
Once you hear a question, you have to answer that question. Remember, if you're caught lying even one time, you lose everything and the game is over.
Got it.
Lauren, you're not only here telling the truth in front of all of America, you brought family and friends to support you as well.
Friends and family to support you? Is that what they're doing? Supporting her? Seems more like they're supporting the show in ruining her life. And spoiler alert, they arrive at the studio as family and friends. They will leave the studio as estranged family and enemies for life.
You know that these questions range from sometimes the silly to the very personal. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Ready.
Okay.
Note that the husband does not say that he's ready for this. He just looks nervous as hell. Probably the correct reaction, honestly. So the early questions at like the lowest level of the show really seem just designed to lull them into a false sense of security.
Have you ever flashed a stranger just for laughs?
Have you ever flashed a stranger just for laughs is level 1? If it's me, I'm lying on purpose right then and there just to pull the plug on the entire operation before it begins. But Lauren went about it a different way.
You think she's ever flashed a stranger? You know her.
I've flashed strangers, so I'm sure she's flashed strangers. So
Okay, neither here nor there, but somebody should probably look into Frank. What do you mean you flashed strangers, so you assume she's flashed strangers? What kind of couple are we dealing with here?
I'm going to have to say yes, Mark. I have.
Oh, good lord.
Would you give food to a stray dog before you would give it to a homeless person?
Well, I would have to say I'd rather give food to a dog rather than a homeless person.
Did she just say she would rather give food to a dog than a homeless person? Jesus, again, this is level 1. Like, these are the easiest, least offensive questions she's gonna be asked all night.
That's right. Don't give food to homeless. Give it to the dog.
They just look at you with the cute puppy faces, and
seem-
then you have somebody who's got a really nasty, dirty face. It's like,
Like, this is level 1 of the show, and she's already admitted to being a flasher who thinks homeless people are worth less than dogs. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to some of the more intense levels.
Do you think your parents are proud of you?
So this is the second level. Good lord.
Mom and Dad, are you proud of her?
we've had this discussion.
The dad's just like, we've had this discussion. I think the answer she was probably hoping for was, yes, I'm proud of her. Not, we've talked about it. This kind of reminds me of like one time a kid at school made fun of me for having a giant head. And when I told my mom, she said, hey, having a giant head is actually a common trait amongst movie stars. And I was just like, thanks. But I was actually looking for something more along the lines of, you have a normal sized head.
no, I don't think my parents are proud of me.
That answer is true.
Look, that's a brutal thing to admit, but hey, at least it earned her a couple $1,000s. Not sure that's a fair trade, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's move on to the next level. Now, these next series of questions are what gives the show its brutal and unhinged reputation, but to be fair, they do give her an out, and she declines to take it.
Is that enough money, $25,000, or do you want to risk it to go on? And I promised you that these questions would get more personal. You want to continue?
Well, to be honest, I am really not concerned about the money. I feel a lot better getting everything I need to get off my chest. So.
What does she mean she wants to get it off her chest? She's like, I've always wanted to get my hatred of homeless people and my love of public nudity off my chest. Feels good, honestly.
Do you believe you might have been in love with a former boyfriend on your wedding day?
Okay, you'd have to be a psycho to even think of these questions. I mean, questions like, do you think you might have been in love with a former boyfriend on your wedding day? Do you think homeless people are less than dogs? No matter what her answer is, the questions themselves suggest that someone is out of their fucking mind. Do I think homeless people are worth less than dogs? I think whoever came up with that question belongs in federal prison. How about that? Again, these questions are fucked up no matter what her answers are. That being said, her answers are not great.
Yes, I believe I was.
That answer is true.
Yeah, of course the answer is gonna be true. Like, why would that be your lie? If you're gonna lie, why would you say that? But hey, I mean, I guess it's not that fucked up. It's not like they brought out the ex she was in love with to ask her a question.
This is your $100,000 moment of truth. And this question will not be asked by me. It's by a surprise guest.
Oh my.
Lauren, this is your ex-boyfriend, Frank.
Fuck.
Hello, Frank. How you doing?
Okay, Frank seems to be having a ball. He's like, hey, happy to be here. Thanks for bringing me out on national television to ruin my ex's life. Good God, do I love TV. Now, this next question is for $100,000, but really when you think about it, it's for $50,000 because that's all she's going to be left with after she gets a divorce as a result of answering this question.
If I wanted to get back together with you, would you leave your husband?
Now, luckily, her family does have one get-out-of-jail-free card, which is that they can press a button that allows her to skip over answering a question. And her sister does that here. Probably the only nice and moral thing that happens on this show, honestly. So you might think, great, her sister pressed the button. She's out of the woods. But not really, because the show immediately just throws her into, you guessed it, even more woods. They replace that question with a new one, which is every bit as bad as the one they replaced it with.
Here's another question that your ex-boyfriend, Frank, will ask.
Do you believe I'm the man you should be married to?
Okay, at this point, why not just kill the lady? Because that seems to be the show's goal, to just annihilate her bit by bit. Why not just fucking kill her? Get it out of the way all at once.
I want to be honest and say yes.
Hey, at least she's honest, right? Right? It kinda doesn't feel right.
True.
Why is the crowd cheering? What is wrong with these people? So now there are 3 more questions for all the marbles.
I will let you know that the questions I've already asked you, a couple of them, are way over my line. This one's further than that.
Okay, I don't like the host pretending that he doesn't approve of all these questions while then still asking her the questions. Like, if all of these questions are over your line, but then you're still asking them, then guess what? That's not your line. That's a normal person's line, but that's not your line, Mark L. Wahlberg, so stop pretending.
Since you've been married, have you ever had sexual relations with someone other than your husband?
I like how we all know that she just clearly has, even before she's answered.
I'm gonna have to say yes.
I mean, at this point, it doesn't even feel shocking. She already said that she's in love with someone who's not her husband, and she regrets being married to him. So at that point, is it even still a betrayal? I mean, yes, it probably obviously still is a betrayal, but still. Now, you might be thinking, all this seems insane to go through just for some money. But that's assuming that she actually wins the money. And if your stomach just dropped to hear me say that, you're right. And look, obviously I don't want to spoil the ending, but let me just preface this final question by saying it really is the perfect question for this show to end on, and it yields, I would say, a fitting ending to what we've seen play out.
Question 17. Do you think you're a good person?
Remember when the host was like, this is all over the line? Cut to 40 seconds later and he's staring into an exploited stranger's eyes, telling her she's a bad person? And look, I'm sure she is, but pot calling the kettle black there, buddy.
Honestly, I think I am a good person.
False.
She won nothing. After all that, nothing. She won $0 because she said she was a good person and the show exposed that as a lie. Like I said, everyone involved, federal prison. They later asked that contestant why she kept going answering questions, and she said she continued trying to win more money in order to achieve fame and fortune. Well, she won 0 fortune because she told a lie and came away with nothing. And I'm sorry to say, I think she also won 0 fame because even though I just watched an entire episode that's all about her, I could not tell you her name. I feel like it's something like Laura or Alex or Emily. But the point is, I just watched her entire episode and her name is already gone. And look, I think this lady obviously does have some issues, so I don't want to let her off the hook entirely. But at the same time, she is just doing what the show is asking her to do. Like, the show asked her to jump through all these insane hoops, and then when she did it, the show's trying to be like, whoa, what's this lady's problem? It's like, this lady's got a lot of problems, sure, but one of them is definitely you. Like, you guys are definitely part of her problems. It's like they designed this fucked up show to ask fucked up questions of fucked up people, and then when one of those people just answers honestly your fucked up questions, you're like, whoa, what's this lady's fucking problem? Is she sick in the head? It's like, yes she is, but so are you. So all in all, I gotta say, nothing about this show made me feel good. How about you guys? And yeah, I guess I would still feel bad if she won money for tearing her life apart, but the fact that she didn't even win money really just makes me feel worse. Like, there's just emptiness. Like, literally no one came away with anything from all this. And I think that is the crux of the issue. Like, if she had won, I would have felt terrible, but she lost and I still feel terrible. Like, no matter how this show plays out, you feel terrible. And it kind of reminds me of this idea in entertainment of killing cats. It's like an old entertainment adage that I think is credited to George Lucas, but it's one of those things where it's like, did George Lucas actually say it? I mean, who knows? But the idea is basically like, you can't just be like, all art is good if it entertains you and makes you feel something. Because like, you could set up a camera, point it at a bunch of cats, and then go through and kill those cats. And like, if you show me that video, I guess I wouldn't be bored. I guess I would be emotionally invested, but that doesn't mean you like made art or created something worthwhile. You just killed cats. And I feel like this show is the emotional and psychological equivalent of just setting up a camera and killing cats. Like, yeah, you found some really fucked up, desperate people and you asked them some really fucked up questions, and yeah, that yielded really fucked up answers. And the sheer horror of watching that kept me hooked to the screen, but that doesn't mean like you deserve credit for creating anything, you know? You just killed cats. So earlier I talked about how this show has been scrubbed from the internet, and after watching this episode, I gotta say, I think they might have been right to do that. And by saving this episode of the show, I feel like a bumbling explorer in The Mummy who accidentally awakened some sort of sinister force by saving this episode. So I'm just gonna say right now, as soon as I'm done filming this video, I will be deleting it off my computer forever and trying my best to never think about it again. Now, to me, if there is any sort of silver lining or takeaway from this shit, it's that I hear people talk about all the time about how like kids today are so fucked up. Oh, they're glued to their phones. Oh, they're watching crazy YouTube videos, or they're watching crazy TikTok videos. And it's like, that's all true, but I think it's important to remember that it's not like the entertainment of yesteryear was some paragon of moral virtue. Like, yeah, this new generation is always scrolling their phones and they're addicted to TikTok. But you know what's crazier than kids today watching TikTok? Adults in 2008 watching this show. 23 million adults, in fact, tuned in to watch The Moment of Truth back in 2008. So compared to that, I'd say maybe the kids nowadays are doing all right.